We can set up suppliers, so if you're buying from multiple suppliers, this is where you can dictate this information, and you can set up multiple suppliers like I'm doing here and have them on separate tabs, and we can dictate our separate prices on which we pay for this product, like so. There is also a latest price column which updates every time we buy the item, so you can always see what your contracted price is and what your latest price that you bought that item for. We can also set up lead times and minimum order quantities, which can be really useful for reordering. So we can have our lead time in there and we can have our minimum order quantity in there, like so. You can also use things such as custom prices, which is where you can set up custom prices of which your customers are going to be paying. So again, focusing on wholesalers and distributors, you might use price tiers if you're trying to fix your customers to separate categories, or you might offer customers fixed prices per product, and that's where we can say this customer pays this price for this particular product, and that will always be linked to them in the system. So there's a couple of different ways that you can actually manage pricing. We can also dictate discounts in the system as well, so alongside price tiers, alongside specific pricing, we can also set up specific discounts for either certain customers or even certain customer tags. So that would be a group of customers. So if we've tagged a group of customers as Bluehub, for example, we could then apply a discount rule to that group of customers. And we can also add images and attachments and a nice activity log to see who has made what changes, and especially if you're selling online, you can use this channel section, which is where you can see which products are available on which different platforms. So if you have lots of different platforms, you can see what's selling where and when. Now that we've looked at products, it's time to look at some of the other important details of the system. So firstly, we have integrations we'll go to, and that's mainly for wholesalers, distributors and e-commerce businesses. This is probably going to be a core part of what you do. Now if you sell directly to trade, this is also going to be relevant, but if you sell online, this is also really relevant. So Cin7 has lots of pre-built integrations. Now if you sell direct to consumer and primarily online, then you'll see in this e-commerce section, this is where you can connect your online sales platforms such as Amazon, eBay, Shopify. Amazon's quite popular. It integrates with both FBM and FBA. If you do vendor, that's slightly more complicated because it does mean it's EDI, but it is possible via middleware software. And Shopify, which is obviously the most popular one. So hopefully you should be seeing your e-commerce platform in here, and this is where you can connect that directly into Cin7 Core. And when an order is placed online, it automatically comes over into Cin7 Core for processing, and when it's processed, it goes back up to your platform. Now also, if you're selling online, you're likely to be interested in shipping integrations as well, which is where you can use middleware software such as Ship Theory, which integrates directly into your carriers, so you can automate your label printing process and not only populate Shopify or WooCommerce that the order's been shipped, but you can also populate the tracking numbers back up to those platforms. Now, if you sell directly to trade and none of those are interest of you, then you also might be interested in this B2B section here and Cin7 Core B2B portal. Now the B2B portal is an extension of the system where you can actually create a trade portal online through using Cin7 Core that you can give to your customers, and you can make this look as nice as you want it or as basic as you want it, and then you can invite your individual customers to this portal to place their own orders. They can see stock levels, they can see their own pricing. You can even invite sales reps, so if you have sales agents on the road, they can also use this portal. And when orders are placed, they come through into this sales section in here and for actual processing in the system. So now that we've had a little look into the integrations for sales, let's take a look at the actual sales module itself. So within sales, you'll see there's 3 types of sales orders at the top of the screen here. We have simple, advanced, and service. Simple is we're selling 50 items, we're delivering those items, they paid an invoice for them. An advanced sale is we may have sold 200 items, but we can only actually deliver 100. So we're going to have split deliveries, and we may also have split invoices as well, so it allows for that flexibility. And service sales, not always relevant for people, but it's maybe if you're selling a service to a customer. Within here, this is also where we can manage our customers. Now, if you're primarily sell online, this may be less of interest because you're going to have that data stored in perhaps Shopify and all your marketing platforms. excuse me, will be connected directly to Shopify. But if you're selling directly to trade and you've got lots of trade customers, this is where you can manage all of your customers. You can import and export your customer information as with products. You can add new customers by clicking the plus button on the left hand side, or we can manage existing customers by selecting into them, and we can add information such as who they are, contacts, currencies, payment terms. We can assign them to a sales rep. We can give them credit limits, place them on hold. We can hold multiple addresses, multiple contacts. We can even store attachments. And we can also view and edit their custom prices, so any unique pricing agreements that we have for them. Now to move on to the actual sales screen, this is so we can view all of our sales orders in the system. We can choose by dates on this general screen. We can view by different statuses, such as awaiting fulfillment. We can even create filters, which are very, very handy, especially if you sell directly to the trade and you sell online. Because what you can do is these are if and and statements to filter this list out for you. So a really popular one is sales channel equals Shopify and save. Give it a name. So now, if I just want to see my Shopify orders, I just click Shopify, and that's going to show me all my Shopify orders. If I just want to see my B2B orders separately, I can click Sales Channel equals B2B and save. Make sure you give it a name. And now I can see them separated out. So this can be a really useful way to segment those orders so you're not just seeing everything. There is also an accounting tab, which again, if you're selling directly to businesses, which is where you can view the statuses of all your orders, and you can filter by draft invoices. You can send out your invoices in bulk by selecting them and emailing them directly from the system. And you can also authorize them in bulk as well, which sends them for processing in your accounting systems such as QuickBooks or Xero. And finally, the fulfillment tab. Now, if you're a wholesaler or a distributor or even an e-commerce company, then you might be using a third-party logistics company. And if so, then you may be directly connecting them via the API. If you're not and you're doing your own fulfillment, this can be a really useful tab. And a lot of our clients will use this by filtering to tomorrow's date, clicking ready to pick. And here they can see all the orders that they need to fulfill for the next day, or they're overdue in my case. And you can select these orders and you can print out your pick lists individually. You can print out combined pick lists. You can even schedule them for picking using Cin7's WMS app, which can be used for barcoding for picking and packing. So that's a look at the overall screens. Now let's take a look at creating order itself. Now if you sell online, any orders placed via an online platform will be directly sent over to Cin7 for processing, and a lot of this information will be populated for you. If you're selling B2B and you're entering orders manually, then you'll be following a similar process to I am here. So firstly, we can dictate who we're selling to, and we can do that from a drop-down list, or you can start typing, or you can create a new customer by clicking the plus button. And you can see Cin7 Core is also kindly enough to remind me that this person is over their credit limit, which we looked at against the customer earlier on. Once we assign that customer, it will pull over all of the default information such as addresses, account managers, tax rules, payment terms, addresses. And scrolling down to the body of the order, the first thing that we notice is that Cin7 follows a linear process. So it goes order, pick, pack, ship, invoice. Now, if you'd like to quote the customer, you can untick this box here and the quote is added before the order stage. The only stage that isn't mandatory here is quote and pack. Them two can be skipped. So in terms of processing orders, it's very straightforward. We can click the plus button in here and view our product. We can start typing. We can even add a new product. And we can actually also see what price this customer is going to pay based on the tier that they are assigned, or perhaps a custom price. We can even see our stock availability, and if we hover over this product, we can see we have free available, we have free on order. We can even see if there's any deals set up against this customer, like promotional discounts or quantity discounts. And we can even see if there's a next delivery date if we have any products on order. Now, I can select a quantity on which I want to sell, so I know I have free available, and this customer's asked for free, luckily. So I can deliver all of those. I can adjust the price if I want to, and I have the correct permissions. I can even apply a discount. I can then see I'm making a margin of 61% on this order, which I am happy with. And I can choose to charge this customer for shipping as well, should I wish to, using the additional charges and services section. And I'm going to charge them £20. Once I authorize this quote, that can then be sent to the customer for approval by using the email and sales quote tab, which pulls up a pop-up window, which is where I can send it directly to the customer. And if the customer is happy and everything, I can select the order tab and I can click copy from quote, which will pull all of that information across for me if I need to make any changes. So let's say they weren't happy with a 5% and I had to agree a 10% to get them over the line. I put 10% in there now and I can go ahead and authorize this order. Now again, it's kindly letting me know they're over their credit limit by a significant amount, and because I have the permissions to do so, go ahead and approve this. Now, picking. So this is where you're actually picking your order and assigning the stock. So we've already looked at some of the options here, and that's on the fulfillment screen. It's on the barcoding app, which I mentioned, or you can use this screen here. Now you can pick these products manually by selecting them from the list, like so. You can use auto pick, which is where Cin7 will automatically pick the correct products based on the FIFO or FIFO methodology that we looked at earlier against the product. Because this product also has a batch number, it's also selected the best batch number for me based on that methodology. It's selected the correct amount and also the location it's pulled from, and I can also print out a pink list from this screen as well should I want to hand this to my warehouse. Once I'm happy with that stock, I can then authorize that, and that is now allocated to this order and picked. The pack section can be skipped if you want it to. Optionally, you can then click copy from pick, and that's where we can say we're putting all 3 of these items into one box. However, we could decide to change this if we want to, and we could split this out into separate boxes, and we could do 2 in one package, 1 in the second package, and I can go ahead and authorize. We can also choose to define shipping instructions, which is really important if you're using something like ShipFury or ShipStation to automatically print your labels, and this will be required for the integration. And that's where we can tell the system the value and also the weight of the product, which if you've set up your product correctly, will be predetermined for you like so. Once I've completed the pack, I can then go to the ship. I can click copy from pack, which will pull all of my information over. You see it has my packages for me, and I can click generate label, and that will actually then go to ShipFury or ShipStation or whichever app you're using and actually generate the relevant label for you and populate the carrier, tracking number and the URL. And if you're using Shopify or another e-commerce platform, it will also send that data back up to that platform. So it's a really good way to increase efficiency in processes that may have actually been done manually previously. Alternatively, you can also just populate this data completely manually if you do not decide to connect, and that will still go back up to Shopify. Once we're happy, we can authorize our order, and that is now shipped, and we have fully fulfilled our order. And if it was an e-commerce order, this would have already been done for us because the customer's going to pay online. If we're B2B, then we can raise our invoice manually, we can make any changes should we wish, and we can email this directly from the system by using the email and invoice tab, and then we can authorize this invoice as well, which will then send this across to our accounting platform if we use one for processing and reconciliation of payment. If the customer decides to return this order, we have a credit note and a restock function, which is where we can issue a credit note for this item and we can issue a restock. If you are using an online selling platform, I would recommend processing the return in there beforehand and then coming across, and then that will be brought across in the integration into Cin7 Core, and you can check it in here. That is especially the case with Shopify. If not, and you want to process this manually, you can raise the credit note first by selecting the date. We can click copy from the invoice, which will pull across, and this is where we can say, okay, how much does the customer want a credit note for? They only have an issue of one of the items in my case, so I can put 1 in there. I am not going to refund the shipping, so I do not want to click copy, which will pull that across. And once I'm happy with that, I can click authorize. And then I can choose to restock these items once the customer has sent me them back, and I can click copy from credit note, and it knows the credit note was one item. The sale location was in main warehouse, and I'm actually going to choose to restock this in my brewery for whatever reason, because I want to keep that separate from my original stock holding because it may be damaged and it may need some inspection. And I can go ahead and click authorize. And that is our sales process done. So you can see it's quite straightforward for it going through it manually. A lot of those steps are skipped if it's coming from an e-commerce platform because the order and the invoice stages are already completed and you're just picking and packing and shipping. Okay, so that's sales. Now we've sold our item, but we also actually need to get items in the system. So that's where the purchasing module comes in with Cin7. Now, purchasing is very similar to sales. It has the same three types: simple, advanced, and service, and the same methodology applies: multiple deliveries or singular deliveries. We can manage our suppliers in here by using the suppliers tab. And if you use a platform like Xero or QuickBooks Online, this information is shared between the two. You can edit existing suppliers by clicking into them. You can import and export them similar to customers and products. And you can also view inside them like so. And we can hold information such as who the suppliers are, payment terms that you have with them, currencies, addresses, contacts, attachments, tax numbers, and even discounts that you may have agreed with that supplier. So those do need to be set up before placing purchases. Similar to sales, we can view all of our purchases in a purchase order screen like so, and we can also filter out these dates by using waiting delivery, and we can also see billing as well, and we can even see draft orders as well. To create a purchase order, we can click the plus button, and you'll see the UI looks very, very similar to sales orders, and again, it does also follow a linear process. Firstly, we can choose to type in our supplier, select from the drop down, or create a new one if it's a new supplier. Once we've selected our supplier, it will pull over their default information and we can choose to amend any of this should we wish. We can put a date on which we wish to get this stock received by. And then scrolling down to the body of the order, you can see it follows a process of order, stock received, invoice. If you receive an invoice before the stock with your particular supplier, you can select this invoice first button here, which swaps them to round, and vice versa. We can start our purchase process by clicking the items we want to purchase. We can then enter in our quantity on which we wish to purchase, and it will also pull our price over that we have agreed with our supplier. You can also use this verify order button, which is where we can see how much we're ordering, how many we have available, how many we have back ordered, what's our minimum stock level, and also how many we already have on order as well. We can also see things around like dimensions and carton quantities, and we can also see MOQs as well. So if we have any minimum order quantities that we actually need to reach here. Once we're happy with this, we can go ahead and click save. And we can then email this directly to our supplier using the email tab and selecting purchase order, and it will pre-populate with our signature if we have one. It will pre-populate with our supplier's email address and pre-attach our purchase order for me. And we can click send. Once they've come back to us and they've amended any details, so the supplier's told me they only have 15 of these available and they're actually going to sell us them at $4.55 a unit. Once we've confirmed those details, we can then authorize that, and that is now an ordered purchase order within the system. When the stock is delivered, similar to sales, we can actually book this in on an app that Cin7 does have. We will have some videos on that shortly, and we do have some already actually on focusing on sales. You can book that stock in on the app, or you can book it in on this screen here, and that's where we can, when the stock is received using the supplier's goods received note or perhaps a receiving note that we've issued to the warehouse, we can either come in here and click the plus button and select the products that we've received, or we can click copy from order, and Cin7 knows what we should be receiving, the quantity and where we should be receiving it. However, we haven't actually received 15 in this case, and let's say we've only received 10. So that's where we would use advanced orders, and we'd use this convert button here. And using this, it allows us to convert it to an advanced order and do multiple receipts. Now the UI changes slightly and everything shifts from across to across on the left hand side. And we now have an option to click show order and view our original order. We have invoicing and receiving, and now this is how we pay for our goods and receive them rather than following that linear process. So in the stock receiving section here, this is where I can say how many I actually received. So we ordered 15 in this case, so I'm going to say in here we only actually received 8. And the supplier has issued an invoice for 8, so I can click my invoice, I can populate my invoice number, my date, I can copy from receiving, and I can go ahead and authorize this. And then the supplier delivers the remainder at a later date. I can click invoicing and receiving, add stock receiving, copy from order, and it will know the remaining amount that we're due to receive, which is 7. And I can authorize this, and I can put these goods away as well. When I receive the invoice, the same process follows. I can populate my invoice number and copy from receiving. Okay. When we click authorize, similar to sales, that will then be sent to QuickBooks or Xero if you're using them, and it will be sent as a purchase order, as a bill, which can be processed and the payment can be allocated. And once that has happened, that will come back into Cin7 to mark it as paid. Okay, so far we've looked at sales and purchasing. They're the main 2 core modules. You know, is a core business. Cin7 also comes with an inventory section, luckily, because it's an inventory system, and this is where we can manage our stock takes in the system. So stock takes allow you to carry out partial or full stock takes and to actually count your inventory. We can define effective dates. We can put expense accounts for any goods that we no longer have. We can carry out stock takes in specific locations. We can even carry out stock takes for specific products, categories, tags, or even bins as well. And we can actually generate that stock take by clicking start in here once we've populated the necessary information. And we can actually count our inventory by inputting quantities into this section here. We can print out a stock take sheet. We can even use the barcoding app that I've mentioned multiple times to actually carry out this stock take and count our inventory. Cin7 also has some really other useful functions in the inventory module, such as adjustments, which is where we can adjust stock in and out. We have transfers, which is where we can move stock from location to another. It also has a material requirements planning module, which incorporates forecasting and looking ahead of time to see what we actually need to have in stock. CRM function, which allows us to track leads and opportunities in a Kanban functionality. This is really important if you're selling directly to the trade or business to business. And this way we can track different deals. We can present them in a Kanban board and have them in draft statuses, in progress, won, and we can drag them through different stages as well. And finally, to finish on as an overview of Cin7 is the reporting module, which is the core and most important part for any business is analytics. And Cin7 has a really good reporting suite split out into different sections of purchase, sales, inventory, financial, audit and production. And this is where you can really delve deeper into the information the system is actually holding. And within each of these sections, there's pre-built reports that you can access and adjust on a pivot table basis. So some examples are within sales, I can come into here and I can select sales overview is probably the most common one. And in here, it's on a pivot table, so I can adjust this to see what I want to see. And right now, I'm actually seeing paid and cost of goods sold for this order. Now, reports in Cin7, you can change the mode, so what time frame do we want to look at. We can export this report. We can configure the layout of this report by pulling in any hidden fields that we may want to actually have in this particular report. So you can see there's lots of fields that aren't in this report as standard, such as invoice, and I can drag that over into my report like so. I can also drag in profit in this particular case and click update. And then fields I've now dragged over are in here and I can drag them into my report like so. Now, in this particular report, I'm looking at by customer, by order. Let's take shipment date out. Let's take payment status out. I can see by customer, by order, how much was paid, cost of goods sold, profit on these particular orders, and the invoice value. And you can, of course, reorder those around so it makes a little bit more sense as well. So it's a really good way to actually delve deeper, and there's plenty more that you can look into. So, for example, if you wholesale and distribution, you may want to use reports such as inventory aging, so you can see how much stock you've got on hand and how old is it, and does it need to be moving quicker. Within the sales section, there's even a forecasting tab, which is where you can look in periods of time and generate a forecast percentage. So I can do a forecast method of last year to this year. I want to plan for the next 3 months. I want to grow 15%. I can generate that forecast, and the system will actually tell me, based on the last year to this year for the next 3 months, how much I'm due to sell on a month-by-month basis. So there's really lots of information that you can get out of the reporting suite, and it comes with the use of using Cin7. You can then generate more data and make better decisions as a whole. And I guess finally is the settings tab, which is where you can control the system. Cin7 has plenty of user permissions, so you can control which people have access to. There's also automation, which is where you can automate certain processes we've looked at today. And also document templates, which is, of course, one of the fronts of your business, so you control what your invoices look like, purchase orders, order confirmations, and even email templates that you send out of the system as well. So I wanted to try and keep this video under 30 minutes because not everyone wants to listen for too long, but hopefully as a wholesale distributor, e-commerce focused brand, non-manufacturing type, this is give you a good insight to Cin7 Core and covered the main modules. There's plenty of other videos on our channel if you're interested in learning more about Cin7, and if you perhaps want to have a chat with me or one of our members at Bluehub about implementing Cin7, or perhaps assistance if you're already using it, head to our website bluehub.co.uk and you can apply for a call and we can see if and how we might be able to help. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment box down below, and please don't forget to subscribe. Looking forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.